Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning and welcome. Well, yeah, I'm putting it up right now. Good morning and welcome to 30-minute reviews. I am Adam, and we are about 7 weeks out from Memorial Day, which means let's start talking about one of the big movies coming out Memorial Day weekend. As we talked about on the CinemaCon episode, this is a big Memorial Day. We have Karate Kid Legends, we have Lilo and Stitch, we have a shitty Angel Studios movie, and we also have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which is the maybe last Mission Impossible movie. Who knows? Um, that said, I have only ever seen two of the Mission Impossible movies. I saw Fallout in a theater, and I saw Dead Reckoning Part 1. Well, now Dead Reckoning. Um, the the thing about them was, I don't know why, but I always kind of put them in that weird category of movie that, like, like Fast and Furious, where it's like they're serviceable for what they are, but they're not anything really special. And I think that may have, I mean, not may have been, that was incorrect. I think of the action franchises right now, I would say it's like Mission Impossible and John Wick are the two strongest action franchises out there that are just, straight that franchise and not this big cinematic universe or anything like that. And I would say you could probably make the case it's probably stronger than Marvel Studios at this point. But I always put them in the same category as Fast and Furious, where it's like if I go into Fast and Furious, I'm here to see fast cars, attractive women. Like it's very much a very, I don't want to say base need. It's like, okay, I'm going into scratch a specific itch, and I think I put this in that same category. That was incorrect. So I did see Fallout, and I did see um I did see Dead Reckoning. So I was like, you know what? Let me go back, especially after the first trailer showed just how deeply this um what's the word I'm looking for here? Just how deeply this movie is gonna be baked into the past of this franchise, and I think I really got that too with Dead Reckoning, where they were referencing things from the beginning, and I was like, I don't think that guy was in those movies in the beginning. But regardless, I went back and watched this one, and one of the things I was surprised about was the year it came out. This came out in 1996, so I would have been 2 years old when this movie released, and watching it now, it's one of those things we have to take into consideration. This one and even the second one, because I watched it on Paramount Plus, and Paramount Plus immediately launches into the next one. Um, it gives you a little bit of a timer, but you get to the end and it's like, oh, and here's the second one. And that came out in 2000. These are pre 9/11 movies, and then when you watch it, that was one of the things that really struck me is that it's like the big action sequence in this movie is like, or the big espionage sequence, I would say, um, is him breaking into what's it called? It's him breaking into the CIA in Langley. And this idea that like we're dealing with the government as kind of the bad guy, it's a if you look at how pop culture has kind of gone in the aftermath of the Cold War, there's a very small period where this came out, where this could have worked without being poorly received. The the issue was when 9/11 happened, there was a immediate shift in the narratives we were telling in movies. The idea that the government is always the good guy, it's a very black and white morality, and to an extent that's where the comic book movie kind of comes from. Like yeah, like X-Men kind of predates that, as does what's it called? As does Spider-Man. But Fantastic Four, and then even into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, comes out of this. We want a very black and white morality: good guy, bad guy. We know who the good guy is. We know who the bad guy is. There's not a ton of gray area. Like, go back and watch Iron Man, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This idea that like Obadiah Stane is objectively the bad guy. There is no redeeming quality to him. And then the same with like Batman Begins. There's a good guy. There's a bad guy. There's no gray morality there. And this idea that we are dealing with a more gray morality, it only really exists in this aftermath of the Cold War, the fall of the Soviet Union. You get this space where you can really explore this, and then immediately this goes away 5 years later. And I haven't seen two yet, but we'll talk about that on Monday. Um, and the other thing that really struck me is, again, this is a movie that is almost 30 years old because it came out in 96, 96, 98. I think it was 96. Um, but this movie came out either way, 96, 98, whatever. Point still stands. It's almost 30 years this movie came out. And it's so funny to see, like, Ving Rhames is there from the beginning. I didn't know that, but Ving Rhames is there from the beginning as Luther, and I love his character. Um, and he looks very different now than he does then. The other guy who's like the guy who calls the shots at what's it called, at IMF, IMS, IMF, whatever it is, where the Impossible Mission thing. Um, that guy whose name is escaping me right now, he is in the movies even up until now, and he's aged in the 30 years. Tom Cruise has barely aged in the 30 years. He did develop that pumpy arm run that's not in this movie. But yeah, it's interesting. And I did not expect for the movie to open the way it does with the team getting massacred and all of that. And then the other thing is too, let's talk about the stakes in this movie compared to the stakes in later movies. The stakes here are so much smaller. There's a mole who's going to release the info, who's trying to sell the identities of the deep cover agents. That's it. Those are the stakes of this movie. We have to stop it so that the deep cover agents don't get exposed. Um, if the buyer wants to sell this information to terrorist organizations or hostile foreign governments or whatever, we need to do that. Now, had they just waited 30 years, they could just wait for the next Signal group chat to give that information away, but that's neither here nor there. So the idea that like these are the stakes is that it's like it's so much smaller and more grounded, and I think that's kind of why the movie works. Is that when you have massive stakes, it just puts you in a situation where everything is so much bigger than it needs to be. And what you end up dealing with is these movies that are overbloated because you're getting bogged down and any character development gets held back by, but what about the fact that they're trying to destroy the world or take over the world or this? It's like, is this really the time to have this conversation? Because like that's the thing that you watch, these movies and you get that question, like, is this really the time to do this? Like, is there a better, like, you couldn't wait till after? You have to do this right now? Like, It's like let's solve the problem, and especially you get in the case where it's like characters haven't resigned themselves to making the ultimate sacrifice. Like it's like okay, I'll buy it then, but like if it's like we still are in the early days of the situation, we can get this thing and end this before it gets really out of hand and really bad. The idea that like okay, we're gonna sit here, we're gonna talk about our past and all of that, it feels a little weird. And the other thing that caught me off guard because it's like the most recent movie kind of indicates the opposite. The idea that like Ethan Hunt has a family, like the idea that he has an uncle and I think it was his mom that are arrested to try and coax him out. Like that idea is something that's kind of completely eliminated by the time you get to a new one. Where it's like I think even in the most recent one, in Dead Reckoning, I think they say like yeah, they go for people who don't have that connection because these are people who have to be able to die and have to be willing to die on a moment's notice to for the cause. That is what they have to do. Like it's a great kind of you know thing to put in there, and it's like when we talk about like why James Bond is the way that he is. I think the 007 program's kind of similar, where it's like, look, James Bond goes out there and has the fast cars and the women and all the expensive trappings of that because he's not expected to live through this, and the shelf life of the 00 agents is not very long. So like while you have this, it's like yeah, go out, spend the money, enjoy what little life you have left, and then when you die, you die. Like that's kind of how I feel this is meant to be, and that's kind of what they lay out in Dead Reckoning. But here we see him, and he has people that they can get to. His mom is still alive, and his uncle. And I was like, oh shit, that's something that's interesting personal stakes that they don't really deal with. Um, Now, at the same time, when I watch this, I look at this and I go, is this my favorite Mission Impossible movie? I would say probably not. I think it's a foundational text in the way that we have to kind of look at it that way. But I think this series has gotten so much better, especially when you get toward the end of this movie and you get toward one of the big action sequences. And I don't know that Tom Cruise now would have done the action sequence with the helicopter in the tunnel attached to the train um, with he would have actually done that. That is, I mean, he's like, that's the thing that's the draw now to these movies is that Tom Cruise is gonna do something absolutely fucking ridiculous, and he's gonna do it himself. He's gonna strap himself to the side of a plane. He's going to, in the new one, it looks like he's going to hang on to a flying biplane. He's going to ride a motorcycle off a cliff. He's going to scale the outside of a building. I mean, these are all things that he's going to actually do himself. And like, there is a sequence which is kind of the famous one of him in the breaking in through the ceiling and being lowered down on the wire. Um, like the the thing with the helicopter scene, there's so much green screen there. There's so much of that is CGI, and I'm like, I don't know. Like when you get to the end, and it's like you get hit with that, it doesn't quite age well. Um, and I don't think the effects age particularly well either. But whatever. I mean, it's good. I mean, I think this is a perfectly solid movie. I think this is a solid action thriller, and I think that it is good enough that we get to the franchise we have now built on its back. Um, Am I gonna rewatch this movie ever? Probably not. And I would say it's probably on our rating scale 4 stars. Um, I do think the plot for what this plot is a little extra convoluted. I don't think it needed to be as tangly as it needed to be. If you're considering how easily laid out what the actual conflict is, um, there are a few extra layers that I don't think are 100% necessary, and I think we could probably have done without. But still, the movie's entertaining as hell. And when you watch it, you can see how we got to where we are now with this big bombastic franchise that's going to carry us into one of the biggest action franchises. And I understand that now. Apparently, this is not the worst. From what I've heard, Mission Impossible 3 is the worst. But we haven't gotten there yet. So we're going to be doing this over the course of the next few weeks. So Monday, we'll be doing Mission Impossible 2. Week after that, we'll be doing Mission Impossible 3. Then was it Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, would be 5. 6 would be Fallout, and then 7 would be Dead Reckoning. We, in the event, that'll always be Monday unless some major news breaks and we have to push it to Thursday or Friday. But in that, that'll be what we'll be doing. Let me just go to my calendar real quick and we can take a look and see what else we have on the calendar. We have a very packed. We are going to try and do some of the other shows around that time, some of the other movies around that time. I do want to revisit Lilo and Stitch, because I do really enjoy that movie, and I think it holds up. I think we did Lilo and Stitch once before on this show. I'm going to see if I can get Josie on for that, because she really likes that movie too. And I also want to do Karate Kid because I've never seen Karate Kid, and I am probably gonna end up seeing Karate Kid Legends. So I feel like I should watch Karate Kid to kind of understand the trappings and understand what it is. Plus, it's also one of those important movies that if you ask anyone who was alive in the '80s or a kid in the '80s, it's like this is a great movie. So we'll see. Let's see how much of Gen X I can piss off. But we'll wrap up there for today. Our next episode, like I said, will be Mission Impossible 2 on Monday, unless some news breaks between now and then, and we preempt it to move to later in the week. Then take that Monday slot for some news. I'm not going to talk about what Grace Randolph said. It's just absurd, and on one hand, it's like what she. I'm not even going to talk about what it was that she said because if it's true, then what the fuck? Like, why would you reveal that? And if it's not true, then what the fuck? Why would you make that up? It's just fuck her. Like, whatever. So that won't be preempting. If you want to look into it, look into it. But it's just like, God, it's one of those things where I read it and I'm like, do I hope it's true? So it's not like she just made this up about this guy, or do I hope it's not true? Because it's like, if it is true, that's terrible. It's such a weird thing, and it's like she has zero credibility. After for me at least, she has zero credibility after the Birds of Prey thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll wrap up there for today, and until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.